everybody, how are you doing today? Today I will be talking about decks that have the potential to top in the future if and only if the top decks of this format, aka the most broken decks of this format, are hit in the next ban list on September 1st of 2011. So these decks here are all the decks that I believe are good and they have the potential to be great, and they will probably top if a good duelist gets their hands on them. But because of the existence of broken cards out there, they will probably never get that chance unless Konami does what they need to do in the next format. And just to mention, these 5 decks down here are decks that I think will never make a comeback. So let me explain why. Evil Swarms. Definitely the best deck on this list, I think, is Evil Swarms. Evil Swarms are great. They are even a little bit broken because of Evil Swarm Bahamut. This deck has a lot of potential. You can use this deck with Dino Rabbits. I've seen a lot of people use this deck with Dino Rabbits. If you can use this deck with Rabbit, but not Dino Rabbit. I forgot to say that, sorry. So Evil Swarms are really, really, really good. It takes a good duelist to use them. They're unique. They can all add these infestation cards from their decks to their hands. I mean, this deck has the whole archetype necessities to be successful. And I think Evil Swarms are a tier 2 deck in this format. So if the cards of this format get hit in the next ban list, this deck will definitely be on top. Gravekeepers. Last week, I came in 3rd at my local tournament. And when I came in 3rd, second place was a Chaos Dragon guy who went 7-1. I went 7-1 as well, but I guess similar opponents put him ahead of me. And first place, believe it or not, was an 8-0 Gravekeepers deck. And when I saw that, I was like, wow, Gravekeepers have always been good. I don't think people use them anymore. My locals has always been oriented around either Chaos Dragons, which is what they use now, and in the past formats, they were Gravekeepers. So, right now, I guess they found out that Gravekeepers is really, really, really good against a lot of these broken decks in this format. So, Gravekeepers have a lot of potential to see some play and to win in the next format. Now, going on to these Spellcasters, I will have to say that this deck is not broken, but it's really good. It's like borderline broken, because they can remove spell cards to destroy and remove cards from your side of the field. I think that's really, really, really good, and, you know, they're not that strong, and they're a little slow. Spellcasters have always been slow, but I really think this Spellcaster deck has a lot of potential in the future if smart people get their hands on it. Now, going on to Infernities, I took a while for weeks to realize, should I put this card in this video? But I realized that Infernities are really, really, really good, and I don't understand why more people don't run them. I think Infernities can top. They have a lot of trap cards that stop and lock their opponents, and I've seen them beat Inzectors a lot, especially at my locals. So I don't understand how Infernities were never, you know, top tier in this format anyways. I mean, I don't think Infernities could probably beat Dark Rolls, but I mean, for the most part, I think Infernities are really good. Karakuris. This used to be like the slow 6 Samurai deck. I always thought Karakuris were good, but I just think other decks existed that were just better, so there was no point in using them. But I think in the future, if a person gets their hand on Karakuris, they will make this deck really good, and they're not broken at all. All their special summoning is limited, and they don't just pop and destroy the way other decks do. So I think Karakuris have a lot of potential to top in the future. Lavels. 1 card. Rekindling. Do I like Lavels? They're fine. I don't find them broken at all. The only broken thing about them is Rekindling. And I didn't put Rekindling in my ban list video. A lot of people asked why didn't I do that. I felt as if Rekindling was the only thing that kept this deck alive. I mean, if you hit a deck that's not topping, and you take away whatever they have to even win some duels, I think you're just going to kill the deck. And plus, I mean, no offense to other duelists, but I mean, I'm smart enough to side in certain cards to beat them anyways. Like, if you side in Soul Release, you're going to destroy them anyways, because you're just going to remove all their cards from play. And if you side in a Prohibition, which people are not smart enough to side in, you can say Prohibition on Rekindling. If you use Prohibition on Rekindling, there's absolutely nothing they can do. They can't get off their broken plays, and they have to duel you in a different manner. So, with that said, I think Lavos are good, and they're right below a tier 1 deck, in my opinion. Now, I've been looking at Mermails, and I didn't feel like putting Atlanteans in here because I want to consider them the same archetype, even though they're not. I think Mermails and Atlanteans together have a decent chance at being a tier 2 deck. I don't really think they're going to win a YCS. They're not broken enough. Well, they're not good enough. I mean, they don't have enough destructive power. They can be veilered easily, and they're honestly not that strong. But I think they have potential to be a good tier 2 deck that, other duelists who want unique decks can, use. Mist Valleys. Now, I always thought that Mist Valleys are broken, but nobody ever used them enough to make them broken. All of these Mist Valley soldiers basically keep returning cards to the hand. And they're basically like a deck full of Neospatian Grand Moles. And I never understood why people really didn't want to play this deck. I always thought Mist Valleys were really good. I've seen them top at my locals a couple of times. I mean, even with the broken decks in this format, these decks are doing okay. So I think in the future this deck can become a lot more of a threat. Now, ninjas. Ninjas are definitely probably at the top of this list. Because White Dragon Ninja plus Safe Zone equals only certain decks can stop it. However, ninjas are very, very, very slow compared to other decks, so it's somewhat hard to get their effects off. I've dueled against ninjas a lot, and I usually beat them with ease because I run Thunder King in my deck. So when they summon Ninja Grandmaster Hanzo, they can't get the search, and then Thunder King's easy to run him over. So, I mean, ninjas have never done well against me, but I think against other people, if people can find a way to get that lock with the whole White Dragon plus Safe Zone thing off, a lot more people will be using ninjas. Treeborn Frogs. Honestly, I will say that I think this deck has gotten weaker over the years. This deck never used to be broken. It was just a good creative deck that somebody thought about. And I think the problem with Treeborn Frogs is that they're not that strong, and they're a little too predictable. I mean, you can just use Prohibition on Treeborn Frog and, end of story. But I think the thing with Treeborn Frogs is that if you can find a way to make a God card Treeborn Frog deck, it's like almost unimaginable what you can do. I've seen my friend Acusis, he made a Treeborn Frog with Obelisk the Tormentor, and in my opinion, I think that's the best deck he has. I mean, it's very, very, very hard to get rid of it. Obelisk is number one. He's not easy to run over, and you can't target him. He's hard to kill, and you can just keep spamming God cards with this Treeborn Frog deck. So honestly, I don't know why people aren't using Treeborn Frogs anymore. I still think they're good, and they're able to dodge a lot of the broken plays. Like if you're dueling against an Insector deck and they hit Treeborn Frog with, I don't know, a Hornet play, I mean, the frog goes into the grave and he comes back next turn, so it's like they never die. And Insectors don't have anything to hit as back rows because Treeborn Frog decks don't really have back row cards. So I really think Frog decks have a lot of potential. Now, intentionally, I put this card at the end because I'm not going to lie to you, I'm very, 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 very biased on this issue. Just this deck. I think anti-meta decks, if built correctly, can top anywhere in this country. Now, I prohibit my deck from showing it to others for obvious reasons, but I think if you build any type of anti-meta deck, it doesn't have to be an Apocalypse anti-meta deck. It can be just an anti-meta deck in general. You know, you don't have to follow the same basic principles as having the Fossil Dynapachyphalo. You can put whatever type of anti-meta build you want, and that can top anywhere. So, I'm just saying, if you have Thunder King, he's like the anti-meta god. You stop searches, you stop Exceed summons, you stop Synchro summons, you stop cards like BLS, you stop cards like Dark Armed, you stop cards like Red Eyes Darkness, you stop so many cards with Thunder King, and I think that's why I think is the only reason why Apocalypse deck is that good. I'm not saying my deck is top tier, I'm not saying my deck is the shit, which I've proven that it is, but I'm not going to brag and say I'm the best duelist in the world. But I'm just saying, from my experiences, from my overwhelming win ratio with my Apocalypse deck, and with other anti-meta builds that I've made, I will have to say that I think anti-meta decks have and will always be the best deck in terms of its potential to top. So with that said, these are the decks that I think will top in the next format. Now, going quickly here, these are decks that I never think will come back. Blackwings, Konami literally hit Blackwings so bad that I would love to see Blackwings come back, but I highly doubt it. I mean, they're getting some more support, but honestly, I've seen the Blackwing cards, they're not that good. I mean, the new cards they're getting aren't that good, and the cards that they already have that made them broken are dead. So Blackwings are going to be one of those decks that I use an example to prove that Konami hit them too much, and now they're dead. You see, cards like Blackwing decks and 6Ms, you either hit them too much and kill them, or you just make them okay. And that's the thing with 6Ms. 6Ms have been hit just right. I still think Gateway needs to be banned, but 6Ms are still a good deck. I still think they're a tier 1 deck, in my opinion. They won a couple of YCSs ago. That proves to you that 6Ms still have some firepower, and a lot of it too. So, with that said, I think Blackwings will definitely be a deck that will be remembered but never will make a comeback. Gladiator Beast. Gladiator Beast used to be the shit. Now they are shit. They're just not as good. I mean, the whole tagging out thing, you know, it could be bottomless, you can be veilered. There's so many things you can do to stop Gladiator Beast, and they're not as fast. And their effects aren't that good compared to what these decks and other meta decks can do. So honestly, Gladiator Beasts were never hit, but you know, they'll never top again. I would love to see a Gladiator Beast top. Zombies. Unless Konami puts Muzuki up, zombies will never be good again. My friend Jules was able to make a zombie deck that was good, but it will never be top tier, especially in this format with these broken shits walking around. But remember that because zombies can keep coming back, that puts them ahead of a lot of other decks out there. Now, X-Sabers. Coolest archetype in terms of, you know, looking like X-Men characters. But think about it. X-Sabers are not coming back. They are good. My friend uses them all the time. But they're not top tier. They used to be like a tier 1.5 deck. But, I mean, now, with all these decks, X-Sabers are way too slow, and they're not as destructive. Ice Barriers. Yes, I used to be an Ice Barrier fanatic. It used to be my favorite archetype. But, you know what? 4 of the Ice Barrier Synchro monsters, and I'm an Ice Barrier player, so I know them all by heart. You have Brionic, you have Dulorn, the Ice Tiger, you have Trishula, and you have Gugnir. A lot of people don't even realize that that Ice Barriers are their own archetype. That you just think of Brionic as just one card, but it belongs to an archetype. And you don't realize it, but 3 out of those 4 cards have been hit. Trish is at nothing, Brionic's at 1, and Dulorn's at 2. And Gugnir's the only monster that you can have at 3. So, I mean, when Konami made synchros for Ice Barriers, that was the only thing that kept Ice Barriers at the top. Because it's easiest to make Trishula in an Ice Barrier deck. Take it from somebody who used to use Ice Barriers. Trish used to be really easy to use in Ice Barriers, and then once they banned Trish, and then once they put Brionic at 1, and once they put Duelorn, which no one really uses anyways, but he's at 2, I mean, you know, Ice Barriers just lost a lot of play. But in the future, I really think that Ice Barriers will be a deck that will always be used for its synchros, but the deck itself is dead. Thank you guys for watching. I tried very hard not to overtalk because I have a tendency to talk too much. Thank you guys for watching. Please subscribe. Please leave a comment. Please message me. I always respond because I don't have a big audience. Thank you. Have a nice day and goodbye.